Despite the record, the Dolphins had strong performances on the team that kept the season alive. And after starting out 2-6, it wasn't a lot of hope for some Dolphin fans. As a matter of fact, there were some Dolphin fans on social media who already said that they were checking out for the rest of the season. There's not a whole lot you can take away from a season that goes as poorly as it did for the Dolphins, especially considering all of the high expectations going into it. But if there was anything the 2024 season did, was show the coaches and the players which players are going to be there for the team in 2025. Which one of these guys are going to be there when the going gets tough? And those kind of guys really stand out on a bad team. So in this video, I like to point out 3 key players, one on offense, one on defense, one on special teams. And those guys, I want to recognize them because when the going gets tough, it's very easy to quit and bail on your team. But these guys were instrumental in keeping the season afloat when things could have easily gone left. Now, the first MVP on special teams is none other than Jason Sanders. Jason Sanders had a bounce-back season after struggling the last couple of seasons, and some, including myself, wondered whether the Dolphins had overpaid for Jason Sanders, who had that one good year that he profited on. But in 2024, it seems like Jason Sanders was able to get his groove back, and I don't know exactly what was the cause of that. Maybe it's the change in holder, or maybe it's the change in snapper, or maybe it has to do with the special teams coach, the now departed Danny Crossman. Whatever the reason was, Jason Sanders established himself as a long distance kicker once again in the NFL. But not only that, he was also able to make clutch kicks when the Dolphins really needed it to help them win games. And it started out a little bit last season when he had that big game against the Dallas Cowboys. He won some games with some field goals, and he had an even better year than in 2023. So Jason Sanders gets the MVP for the special teams this season because not only was he consistent, but he was also very effective from long distances. And when you are an offense that was struggling like the Dolphins were, getting long field goals is a way to salvage drives instead of punting and not getting any points. So Jason Sanders gets the MVP of the special teams, and for me, it was well deserved. Next team MVP, this time on defense, goes to Zach Sieler. And man, I don't think that there's another more deserving player on defense who should get this award. Now, Zach Sieler could be the team's MVP, right? I mean, that's the kind of season he's had. And when you consider that he's lost Christian Wilkins, who signed a big free agent contract to go play for the Las Vegas Raiders, and the fact that the Dolphins didn't sign any real help until Calais Campbell came late in training camp, Zach Sieler had to wing it on his own. And for Zach Sieler to have the kind of season that he had, he was very disruptive against the run. He consistently made tackles for losses. He was very consistent in rushing the passer. He was able to separate from blockers and get into the backfield and be disruptive, put pressures on the quarterback and generate sacks. He was the kind of guy who seemed to be present in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. And this is what really stands out about Zach Sieler. In the biggest games the Dolphins had against the better opponents on the schedule, that's where he really shined. I mean, he was the one guy who really consistently stepped up when the competition raised against the Miami Dolphins. And for that reason, I think that Zach Sieler, and please, no one tell his agent that he's very underpaid for the Miami Dolphins right now. Zach Sieler has to be, dollar for dollar, the best player on the Miami Dolphins in terms of his contract relative to his performance. And that's not something to be taken lightly. The Dolphins are getting extreme value from what they're getting from Zach Sieler. And I think that his team appreciates him, but I also think that the fans need to appreciate him a little bit more. That's why it was very easy for me to name him the team MVP on defense. Last but not least is the team MVP on offense, and that goes to, and I'm sure you guys probably expected by now, it goes to Jonnu Smith. And that's a big deal considering the Dolphins have De'Von Achane, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill on offense. But the kind of performance that he put up, especially when you consider that he broke all kinds of records for the Miami Dolphins. He broke the team tight end receiving record, the team tight end receptions record, and the team tight end touchdown record. So he basically got the entire triple crown when it comes to the Miami Dolphins tight ends. And for him to be able to do that when last season the Dolphins did not even score a touchdown by the tight end in 2023 shows how far they came in terms of getting the tight end involved in the offense. Now, that was a point of emphasis for Chris Grier and for Mike McDaniel. And obviously, Jonnu Smith was one of the best free agent signings the Dolphins have had in a long time. And when Tyler Huntley came into the game in his first stint, when Tua first got hurt, he wasn't really prepared. He didn't really know the playbook. He hadn't even been with the team very long. but he had to go out there and somehow perform, and didn't perform very well in those 4 games. But he did get the ball to Jonnu Smith when the Dolphins really needed it. Against the Patriots and against the Colts, Jonnu Smith made himself a very available target, and he became a check down when the Dolphins really needed someone in the middle of the field to take pressure off of the guys who play on the outside. So that was Jonnu Smith's task, and he did it extraordinarily well. Obviously, he had the game-winning touchdown versus the New York Jets in the first matchup, and he showed up a little bit late in terms of his production. It didn't happen until the fourth quarter and in overtime, but when he showed up, he arrived big and he produced big. And that victory in large part was due to Jonnu Smith's contribution to the offense. And you gotta love guys like that who not only is signed as a free agent, but comes there and makes an immediate impact. And for the Dolphins, Jonnu Smith was everything that was as advertised, right? A guy who's a good pass catcher, a decent blocker, but most importantly, he excels at yards after the catch, which is something that Mike McDaniel really believes in. So I'd just like to take the time to congratulate Jonnu Smith, Zach Sieler, and Jason Sanders for winning the Matt Newton Team MVP awards for the Miami Dolphins. And even though there's no prizes involved and no physical trophies involved, it's just the acknowledgement from someone who watched their games and admired how well they were able to perform, even when the season was going downhill, even when the team could have tanked. Those guys on each unit helped to keep them in the playoff race, honestly, until the final week of the season. The Dolphins were in the playoff race. Up until week 18, the Dolphins had a chance to get in with a Denver loss and a win themselves. Obviously, neither one of those things happened. But most likely, it wasn't because of Jonnu Smith, Zach Sieler, and Jason Sanders. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to subscribe to get more content, and leave a comment in the section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.